I'm Margaret, and I'm 68 years old. I want to share something that happened to me that completely changed my relationship with my family forever. I've always been the type of mother who sacrificed everything for her children. When my husband Robert died 17 years ago, I dedicated my entire life to supporting my son, David. I juggled multiple jobs to fund his university education, contributed to his wedding expenses, and even provided the initial payment for his first home. When his twin children were born, I became their daily caregiver, watching them, preparing meals, and assisting in every way imaginable. David married a woman named Stephanie. From our first meeting, I sensed she viewed me more as a financial resource than as family, but I remained silent because I cherished my son and wanted to maintain a relationship with my grandchildren. Lily and Ethan were 9 years old, and though they were wonderful children, Stephanie was teaching them to expect everything without effort. I lived modestly on Robert's pension and government benefits. Nothing luxurious, but I had accumulated savings through decades of careful planning, preparing for healthcare needs, and perhaps leaving something meaningful for David and the children. Everything shifted on a Wednesday afternoon in April. I'd been experiencing severe abdominal discomfort for several weeks, but being somewhat stubborn about medical care, I kept postponing a doctor's visit. That afternoon, the pain became excruciating. I could barely move. I contacted David, struggling to speak through the agony, explaining I desperately needed assistance. "Mum, I'm in the middle of an important meeting. Can't you just call emergency services?" Those words should have alerted me to what was coming. I did contact emergency services. At the hospital, they immediately ran diagnostic tests. The physician's expression revealed everything before he spoke. My appendix was severely inflamed and dangerously close to bursting. I required immediate emergency surgery, or I risked fatal complications. I was absolutely terrified. I'd never undergone surgery before, not even minor procedures. As they prepared me, gathering information about family contacts, insurance details, and emergency numbers, everything felt overwhelming and rushed. I provided them with David's contact information as my emergency person. He arrived at the medical center about 90 minutes later, with Stephanie accompanying him. She appeared irritated, as though my medical emergency had disrupted her schedule. But what I discovered when I woke up from that surgery, that's when the real nightmare began, and what I did next shocked everyone who knew me. If you're wondering how someone could do this to their own mother, wait until you hear what happened while I was unconscious on that operating table. "How long is this procedure going to take?" Stephanie asked the surgeon, not inquiring about my well-being or the medical risks, simply wanting to know when this inconvenience would conclude. "We're taking her into surgery immediately," the doctor responded. "The operation typically lasts 60 to 90 minutes, but post-operative monitoring and recovery will require several additional hours. She'll need overnight observation, potentially longer if complications arise." Stephanie whispered something to David. He nodded in agreement. "Mum, we'll be here waiting for you," David assured me, gently holding my hand. "Everything will turn out fine." I clung to those reassuring words as they transported me toward the surgical suite. My son would be there for me. I wasn't facing this alone. I had absolutely no idea that the instant I went under anesthesia, they would already be making vacation plans. The surgery proceeded successfully, according to the medical team, but nothing about what followed would ever be fine again. I regained consciousness in the recovery area around 7 in the evening, feeling disoriented and experiencing significant pain. The nursing staff were incredibly compassionate, monitoring my condition and ensuring my comfort. My abdomen felt as though it had been torn apart, and the pain medication created a strange, dreamlike state. Is my son in the waiting area? I asked the attending nurse. She checked the visitor's lounge and returned with a sympathetic expression. There's nobody out there waiting for you, sweetheart. Would you like me to contact someone for you? My heart dropped. They had abandoned me. David had promised he would be there when I emerged from surgery, and he had simply left. I attempted calling his mobile phone. It went directly to voicemail. I tried Stephanie's number. Same result. Voicemail. They've probably just stepped out for food, I told myself, attempting to remain calm. They'll return soon. They never returned that entire night. I spent those first hours alone in that hospital room, drifting between consciousness and medication-induced sleep, startling awake every time I heard footsteps in the corridor, hoping it would be David. It never was. The following morning, a different nurse came to check my vital signs. Any family members visiting today? I'm certain they will, I responded, though I wasn't certain at all anymore. I tried calling repeatedly. Nothing. I sent multiple text messages. No responses. By afternoon, I was beginning to feel genuine panic. What if something terrible had happened to them? What if there had been an accident? But surely someone would have contacted me. I was David's emergency contact as well. But the truth was far worse than I could have imagined. And when I finally discovered what they were really doing, it changed everything forever. You won't believe what I found on my bank statement when I finally got home. Keep watching because this is where things get absolutely crazy. The physician visited during his rounds on my second day. Mrs. Collins, you're healing well. We'll keep you one additional night for observation, and if everything appears satisfactory tomorrow, you can be discharged. Is there someone who can transport you home and stay with you for several days? You shouldn't be alone during this recovery period. My son will handle everything, I said automatically. But would he really? That second night was significantly worse than the first. The fear had transformed into something different. Pain, bewilderment, fury. Where was my son? The person I'd sacrificed my entire life for? The one who promised he'd be there? On the third day, Friday morning, I was discharged from the hospital. I still hadn't received any communication from David, not a single word in over 72 hours. I hired a taxi service, which cost me $48 I couldn't comfortably afford. Every bump in the road sent sharp pain through my surgical site. I clutched my discharge instructions and medication, fighting back tears. My home felt abandoned and unwelcoming. I stood in the kitchen where I'd prepared countless meals for David throughout the years, where I'd created birthday celebrations for Lily and Ethan, where I'd hosted every major holiday gathering. I attempted calling one final time. Voicemail once again. That's when I decided to check my financial accounts online. Perhaps I was being overly suspicious. Perhaps there was some reasonable explanation. I logged into my banking portal and stared at the computer screen in disbelief. My checking account, which contained over $6,000 just 4 days earlier, was reduced to $280. My credit card, which I maintained exclusively for emergencies and consistently paid completely each month, was maxed out at its $18,000 limit. My hands began trembling uncontrollably as I clicked through the transaction history. Universal Studios Orlando. Every single purchase was from Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, April 27th. Universal Resort Hotel, $212. April 27th. Universal Park Admission, $2,640. April 27th. Universal Merchandise Store, $538. The itemized list continued endlessly. Resort accommodations at the premium property, attraction tickets, character dining experiences, souvenirs, everything imaginable. They had even charged VIP express passes at $350 per person. While I was undergoing emergency surgery, while I lay alone in that hospital room, while I was experiencing pain and fear and wondering if I might die, they were riding roller coasters and eating at themed restaurants with my money. I sat there staring at my laptop display, and something inside me fundamentally broke. Not broke with tears. I was beyond crying. Broke like years of accumulated resentment finally breaking through. Years of being exploited. Years of prioritizing everyone else. Years of being treated like a convenience rather than a human being. They hadn't even requested permission. They had simply stolen my credit card information and abandoned me to nearly die alone. What I did next will shock you, and honestly, I have zero regrets. Stay with me, because this is where I took back control of my life. I checked my email inbox. There it was, clear as day. I'd provided David with my credit card details several months earlier when he claimed he needed to purchase something online for Ethan's birthday celebration, and his card was apparently declined. I'd trusted him to delete that information afterward. He had saved it permanently, and the precise moment I was most vulnerable, the exact moment I needed him desperately, he had exploited it to finance his family's vacation. I immediately contacted the credit card company. I need to report unauthorized fraudulent charges on my account. I'm sorry you're experiencing this, Mrs. Collins. Can you specify which transactions you're disputing? All the Universal Studios charges from April 27th forward. I was hospitalized with emergency surgery. I absolutely never authorized these purchases. The customer service representative was understanding but explained the complications. Since these charges were made by someone who possessed your card information, and you've previously authorized this individual to use your card, this situation becomes legally complex. We'll need to conduct an investigation. In the meantime, would you like to deactivate the card? Yes. Immediately, please. Completed. The card is now permanently deactivated. They won't be able to process any additional charges. I disconnected and checked my phone again. Still absolutely nothing from David. They had no awareness that I'd discovered their betrayal. They were still there in Orlando, still spending freely, still enjoying their vacation while I sat at home, alone, recovering from surgery that could have been fatal. Then I remembered something crucial. They'd also used my debit card information. I contacted my bank directly. I need to close my existing checking account immediately and open a completely new one. Someone has stolen my debit card information. The banker was remarkably efficient. Within 30 minutes, my old account was permanently closed and a new secure account was established. Every automatic payment required transferring. Every direct deposit needed rerouting. It was administratively tedious. But I didn't care even slightly. I wanted them completely cut off. Absolutely and totally. I examined the calendar hanging on my wall. Today was Friday. Based on the hotel charge patterns, they'd booked the premium resort through Monday. 4 additional days of their magical vacation experience. I leaned back in my kitchen chair, my surgical incision throbbing painfully, and for the first time in 4 days, I smiled genuinely. They had absolutely no idea what was coming. The moment they tried to use those cards again, their perfect little vacation was going to come crashing down spectacularly. And honestly, I couldn't wait to see what happened next. The phone calls and messages that started coming in the next morning were absolutely priceless. You have to hear how they reacted when everything stopped working. Friday afternoon, I did something I should have done many years ago. I started systematically documenting everything. I printed every bank statement, every credit card statement, every cancelled check where I'd financially assisted David over the years. The down payment for his house? $35,000. The replacement vehicle when his broke down, $9,000. The times I'd provided loans that were never repaid, another $18,000 minimum. Then I created a new document on my computer and began recording every single time I'd provided childcare for Lily and Ethan, every Tuesday and Thursday evening for the past 4 years, every weekend when David and Stephanie wanted romantic time together, every school vacation when they didn't want to use their own time off. If I'd been compensated at standard childcare rates, they would owe me over $48,000. I wasn't documenting this to demand payment. I was documenting because I needed to see in undeniable detail exactly how much I'd given and how little I'd received in return. I went to bed Friday night and slept more soundly than I had in months, knowing what was coming. Saturday morning, I woke up to 23 missed calls and 41 text messages. The first call had come at 8:34 a.m. By 9:07, they were absolutely frantic. I prepared myself a cup of coffee, moving carefully because of the pain from my surgical incision, and read through the messages while sitting at my kitchen table in the morning sunlight. David, 8:34 a.m. Mum, my card isn't working properly. Can you contact the credit card company? David, 8:41 a.m. Mum, we're attempting to pay for our breakfast reservation and the card was declined. David, 8:58 a.m. Mum, this is extremely urgent. Call me immediately. Stephanie, 8:52 a.m. Margaret, we have a serious problem with the card. We need you to resolve this right now. David, 9:07 a.m. I contacted the credit card company and they informed me you cancelled the card. What's happening? Stephanie, 9:15 a.m. This is completely unacceptable behavior. We have 2 children here and you're playing ridiculous games with us. I took a long, satisfying sip of my coffee. It was exceptional coffee, the expensive variety I usually only purchased for special occasions. Today definitely felt special. The phone rang insistently. David. I let it ring through to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Stephanie. I let that one ring as well. Then David again. I finally answered on the 6th call, deciding it was time. Mom, thank God you answered. What's happening with the credit card? I cancelled it, I said calmly. Silence. Then, you what? I cancelled the credit card and I closed my checking account. Both cards are permanently deactivated. Are you losing your mind? We're in the middle of Universal Studios. We have 2 more days booked here. We have hotel charges, park tickets for today and tomorrow, dinner reservations already made. That sounds like your problem to solve. Their reaction to what I said next was absolutely explosive. Wait until you hear how this conversation ended. Mum, this isn't funny at all. We have the kids here with us. David's voice was rising in panic. You had me in emergency surgery, David. Alone and terrified while you stole $18,000 from my credit card to finance your vacation. We didn't steal anything. We were planning to pay you back eventually. Like you repaid the $35,000 for your house down payment? Like you repaid the $9,000 for your vehicle? Like you've repaid any of the money I've given you over the last 15 years? I could hear Stephanie in the background, her voice shrill and furious, saying something I couldn't quite make out. Mum, we can discuss this when we return home. But right now we desperately need… No. What? No. You're adults. You took a vacation you couldn't afford using someone else's money, while that person was nearly dying in a hospital. Figure it out yourselves. How are we supposed to get home? We don't have sufficient credit on our own cards to cover the hotel bill. I suppose you should have considered that before you abandoned your mother in a hospital bed. If you're watching this and thinking I went too far, wait until you hear what they tried next. But honestly, I was just getting started. Mum, Please, the kids are asking what's wrong. Lily's crying. Tell Lily that Grandma is recovering from major surgery, alone, because her father decided Universal Studios was more important than his mother's life. You're being incredibly selfish. Stephanie's voice came through clearly now. She must have grabbed the phone. I hung up without another word. My hands were shaking, but not from fear or uncertainty, from pure adrenaline and something I hadn't felt in decades: power, control over my own life. They called 27 more times that day. I didn't answer a single one. Sunday morning, I contacted my attorney. Harold Chen had handled Robert's estate 17 years ago, and I'd maintained his contact information all these years. He was semi-retired now, but agreed to meet with me that afternoon. Margaret, it's wonderful to see you, though I wish it were under better circumstances, he said, shaking my hand carefully when he noticed me moving stiffly. How can I help you? I need to completely revise my will. I showed him absolutely everything: the bank statements, the credit card charges, the documented history of money I'd provided to David. I told him about the surgery, about being abandoned, about waking up to discover $18,000 stolen. Harold's expression grew increasingly serious as I explained. He was a grandfather himself, with 5 grandchildren. I want David removed as beneficiary of everything, I stated firmly. The house, my savings, my pension benefits, everything. Do you have alternative beneficiaries in mind? I'd spent the entire previous night considering this carefully. Split everything equally among 3 charitable organizations: the Regional Children's Hospital, the Domestic Violence Shelter, and the Animal Rescue Foundation. Harold nodded thoughtfully. I'll draft the new will today. We can have you sign it on Tuesday. I need it completed today, Harold. I want it legally executed before they return from Orlando. He saw the absolute determination in my eyes and didn't question my decision. What happened when they finally came home and discovered what I'd done? That confrontation was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Give me 4 hours, Harold said, understanding the urgency in my voice. While I waited, I went through my house methodically, collecting everything that belonged to David and his family: Lily's toys that permanently resided at Grandma's house, Ethan's art supplies and books, the family photographs that lined my hallway walls. Everything went into cardboard boxes. I located the spare key David had to my house and removed it from my key collection. I'd arranged to have the locks changed first thing Monday morning. At 5 p.m., I was back in Harold's office, signing the new will. He had 2 staff members serve as witnesses, and it was completed, legal, binding, irreversible. Margaret, Harold said gently, I completely understand you're hurt and angry. Those feelings are entirely valid. But are you certain you don't want to take a few weeks to think this through? This is a significant decision. Harold, I've spent 68 years putting other people first. I put Robert first when he was alive, which was right and good. I loved him deeply. I put David first his entire life, which is what a mother does. But this? I gestured to the legal documents. This isn't a son forgetting a birthday or being too busy to visit. This is cruelty. This is theft. This is abandonment when I needed him most. I've never been more certain of anything. Then I'm satisfied you're making this decision with complete understanding. I drove home with the signed will in my passenger seat and felt lighter than I had in years, despite the physical pain from my incision. The calls from David and Stephanie had continued throughout the weekend. The voicemails progressed from angry to desperate to pleading. Apparently, they'd been forced to relocate to a budget hotel outside the resort area. Stephanie's parents had wired them money for gasoline to drive home, but not enough to complete their vacation as they'd originally planned. Monday evening, I received a text from David. "We'll be home tomorrow afternoon. We need to talk face to face." I texted back, "There's nothing to discuss. Don't come to my house." Then I blocked both their phone numbers on my device. Tuesday morning, I hired a locksmith. "Just need the front and back door locks replaced," I told him. He was a pleasant young man, probably in his 20s, who reminded me of David before he'd married Stephanie, before he'd become someone I no longer recognized. "No problem, Ma'am. This'll take approximately an hour." While he worked, I called my doctor's office and scheduled my follow-up appointment. I called my neighbor, Patricia, who'd been extremely worried about me, and apologized for not reaching out sooner. I called my younger sister in California and told her everything that had happened. "Margaret, I'm so sorry you went through this," Rebecca said. "But honestly, I'm proud of you. David's been exploiting you for years, and you finally had enough courage to stop it." "Was I wrong to do this?" "Wrong? Margaret? He stole from you while you were in surgery. He abandoned you in the hospital. There's no universe where you're the villain here." But they weren't going to give up that easily. When they showed up at my door, what happened next tested every ounce of strength I had. By noon, I had completely new locks and 2 new keys. One for myself, one for Patricia in case of emergencies. That was it. Only 2 keys in existence. At 3:15 p.m., someone knocked loudly on my front door. I looked through the peephole and saw David, Stephanie, and the twins standing on my front porch. They looked exhausted, disheveled, and furious. I didn't open the door. "Mom, open the door right now!" David shouted, pounding harder. I remained completely silent. "Margaret, we know you're inside. Your car's in the driveway." That was Stephanie, her knocking becoming more aggressive. "Grandma, are you mad at us?" Lily's small voice cut through everything. That almost broke my resolve. Almost. But I remembered that Lily hadn't asked where Grandma was when I was in the hospital. Neither child had asked their parents why they weren't visiting me. They'd been too busy enjoying their vacation. "Mum, please. We drove 8 hours straight. The kids are exhausted. We need to talk about this situation." David's voice was cracking with emotion now. I walked to my bedroom and closed the door firmly. I could still hear them outside, but muffled now, like distant thunder. They remained there for 50 minutes. I could hear them arguing among themselves. Stephanie was angry that they'd wasted time driving to my house. David kept insisting I'd eventually come around, that I was just being overdramatic. Finally, they left. 15 minutes later, David tried his old key. I heard him attempting to insert it in the lock, confused when it wouldn't turn. "She changed the locks," I heard him say to Stephanie, his voice filled with disbelief. "She actually changed the locks on her own son." "This is elder abuse," Stephanie said loudly, clearly hoping I'd hear through the door. "We could contact social services. She's obviously not thinking clearly after her surgery. We might need to pursue guardianship." "Let's just go home," David said, his voice defeated. "She'll calm down eventually." I wouldn't calm down. I was calmer than I'd been in years, finally thinking clearly for the first time in decades. Over the following week, they tried everything imaginable. David sent lengthy emails. Stephanie sent a certified letter threatening legal action for grandparent alienation and potential elder abuse claims. David's childhood friend, Marcus, who I'd known since the boys were in elementary school together, called attempting to mediate. "Margaret, I understand you're upset, but David's absolutely beside himself. Maybe you could just talk to him, hear him out?" "Marcus, let me ask you something. If your mother was in emergency surgery, would you leave her alone in the hospital and fly to a theme park on her credit card?" He didn't have an answer for that question. The line went quiet, and then he simply said, "I'm sorry, Margaret," and hung up. But I wasn't done making changes to my life. What I did next showed me I could actually be happy without them. 4 weeks after the surgery, I felt physically strong enough to start making more significant life changes. First, I joined a senior fitness program at the community recreation center, water aerobics twice weekly. The women there were absolutely wonderful, supportive, funny, genuine, and none of them knew anything about my family situation. I was just Margaret, recovering from surgery, trying to stay healthy and active. Second, I volunteered at the local public library's children's reading program. I'd always loved working with children, and just because my own grandchildren had been kept from me didn't mean I couldn't make a positive difference in other kids' lives. Every Thursday afternoon, I read stories to groups of preschoolers whose faces lit up with wonder and pure joy. Third, I scheduled an appointment with a financial advisor. If I was going to live the remainder of my life on my own terms, I needed to know exactly where I stood financially. The advisor's name was Patricia Chen. She was approximately 55, incredibly sharp, and refreshingly direct in her communication. "Mrs. Collins, examining your financial history, you've given away approximately $112,000 over the last 17 years to your son and his family." I felt physically ill hearing the number stated so plainly. "However," Patricia continued, "you're not in terrible shape. Your house is completely paid off. Your pension and government benefits are stable. And once the credit card company resolves the fraud investigation, you should recover most of those charges." Most? There's a deductible, and some charges they might consider authorized since you'd previously given your son card access. But we're talking maybe $3,000 to $4,000 out of pocket maximum. Not ideal, certainly, but manageable with your current financial situation. Over the following month, David's attempts to contact me changed tactics dramatically. He stopped being angry and started being pitiful, manipulative. Email from David. "Mum, Lily asks about you every single day. She misses her grandma terribly. She doesn't understand why you won't see her anymore." Email from David. "It's Ethan's birthday next week. He specifically wants you there. Please don't punish the kids for our mistakes." Email from David. "Stephanie's pregnant. You're going to have another grandchild. Don't you want to be part of this baby's life?" Each message was carefully designed to make me feel guilty, to make me question my decision and boundaries. But every time I wavered even slightly, I remembered waking up alone in that hospital room, terrified and in pain. I remembered the bank statement showing $18,000 stolen. I remembered, "Don't be dramatic, Mom." I didn't respond to any of them. Patricia asked me about it one evening over tea at her house. "Do you miss them?" "I miss who I thought they were," I said honestly. "I miss the son I raised, the one who wouldn't have abandoned his mother. But that person either never existed or doesn't exist anymore. The man who stole from me while I was in surgery, I don't miss him at all." Then something happened that tested whether I'd really changed, or if I'd cave when things got emotional. "What about the grandkids?" Patricia asked gently. That question hurt more than anything. I love Lily and Ethan deeply, but their parents are teaching them that grandma exists to provide money and free childcare. That's not love. That's exploitation. And I won't participate in raising another generation who views relationships as transactional. Patricia squeezed my hand supportively. "You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for." Maybe I am. Or maybe I just finally exhausted the weakness that made me easy to exploit for so many years. 5 months after the Universal Studios incident, on a Thursday in September, My doorbell rang at 4 p.m. I looked through the peephole and saw David standing there alone. No Stephanie, no children. He looked absolutely terrible. He'd lost significant weight, had dark circles under his eyes, and his shoulders were slumped in complete defeat. Against my better judgment, I opened the door, but kept the security chain engaged. Mum, what do you want, David? I need to talk to you. Please, just 5 minutes. I studied his face carefully. He looked genuinely broken, devastated. You can talk from there. Stephanie left me. I didn't say anything, just waited. She's filing for divorce. She said I'm useless, that my family is useless, that she can't believe she married someone whose own mother won't even talk to him. His voice cracked emotionally. She took the kids to her parents' house in another state. I haven't seen them in 4 weeks. I'm sorry you're experiencing that. Are you? Because you started all of this. And there it was, the victim mentality still intact. I started this? David, you abandoned me during emergency surgery to go on vacation with my stolen money. You did that. Nobody else. It wasn't stolen. You're my mother. You've always helped me before. Helping is giving freely. Stealing is taking without permission. You stole from me when I was at my absolute most vulnerable. I made a mistake. How long are you going to punish me? I looked at this man, my son, who I'd loved more than my own life, and felt nothing but profound sadness. David, you haven't apologized. Not once in 5 months. You've been angry that I caught you, defensive about your choices, upset about the consequences. But you've never said, Mum, I'm sorry I hurt you. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Even now, standing on my doorstep, you're here because your wife left you and you need something from me. You're not here because you realized you hurt your mother. You're here because you need me to fix your life again. That's not fair. Do you even know how the surgery went, David? Did you ever ask about my recovery? Whether I needed help? Whether I was okay? He stared at his shoes silently. What I told him next ended our relationship forever. But I have no regrets about any of it. You called once from Universal Studios to tell me how magical the experience was. That was it. 5 months ago, I almost died, and you've never once asked if I'm okay. How are you? He asked quietly, mechanically. I'm better than I've been in years. I have friends, hobbies, and a life that doesn't revolve around waiting for you to need something from me. So that's it? You're just done with me? With your grandkids? I changed my will, David. Everything goes to charity when I die. The house, the savings, all of it. You're not in it anymore. His face went completely white. You can't do that. I can, and I did. It's been legally executed for 5 months now. That's what I wanted to tell you. There's nothing left for you to take from me. You already took it all. Mom, please. Goodbye, David. I closed the door firmly and locked it, the new lock he didn't have a key for, and walked away. Behind me, I heard him start to cry. I didn't go back. 7 months after my emergency surgery, I was having lunch with Patricia and two other ladies from my water aerobics class at a lovely cafe downtown when I saw them across the restaurant. David was there with a woman I didn't recognize. She was younger than Stephanie, maybe in her early 30s. They were laughing together, and he looked happier than I'd seen him in years. He saw me at the exact same moment. Our eyes met across the restaurant. For a brief second, I saw something in his expression. Shame, perhaps, or regret. Then he looked away quickly and said something to his companion. They stood up, left money on the table, and walked out. Patricia had noticed. Was that David? Yes. Are you okay? I thought about it honestly. Was I okay? My son had stolen from me, abandoned me, and was now living his life as though I'd never existed. By all conventional measures, I should be devastated, but I wasn't. I'm okay, I said, and meant it. I'm actually okay. That night, I wrote in the journal I'd started keeping since the surgery. I'd never been much for writing, but my therapist had suggested it might help process everything. I wrote, "Today I saw David with someone new. He looked happy. Part of me, a small part, hopes he is. Not because he deserves happiness after what he did, but because I deserve peace. And I can't have peace while carrying anger. I've learned something important these past 7 months. You can love someone and still protect yourself from them. You can forgive someone without allowing them back into your life. And you can grieve the relationship you thought you had while building a better life without it. I spent 68 years being someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's grandmother. I forgot to be Margaret. These past months have been painful, but they've also been liberating. I'm rediscovering who I am when I'm not defined by how I serve others. The ending of this story might surprise you because it's not really an ending at all. It's a beginning. 1 year after my surgery, I received an unexpected letter. It was from David, but not addressed to me directly. It had been sent to Harold, my attorney, who forwarded it to me with a note asking if I wanted to read it. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won. The letter was 2 pages, handwritten. David's handwriting, which I'd recognize anywhere. I'd helped him learn to write as a child. Mum, I know you probably won't read this, and I don't blame you. I've spent the past year in therapy, trying to understand how I became someone who could do what I did to you. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness or to be let back into your life. I'm writing because you deserve to know that I finally understand what I took from you. It wasn't just the money, though that was terrible enough. I took your trust. I took your security. I took away the one relationship you should have been able to count on when you were at your most vulnerable. My therapist asked me to imagine if someone did to my children what I did to you, and for the first time, I really felt the weight of it. Stephanie and I are divorced. I have limited visitation with Lily and Ethan, which is probably what I deserve. I lost my job because I couldn't focus. I lost our house. I've lost everything, and I finally understand that I lost it all the moment I chose a vacation over my mother's life. I'm truly sorry. I folded the letter and put it in my desk drawer. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I would, maybe I wouldn't. But for now, knowing he finally understood was enough. 2 weeks later, I was at the library reading to the children when a little girl named Sophie climbed into my lap after story time. Miss Margaret, are you anybody's grandma? Not right now, sweetheart. That's sad. You'd be a really good grandma. Out of the mouths of children. Thank you, Sophie. You know what? You can be my honorary granddaughter. How does that sound? Her face lit up. Really? Really? Her mother approached afterward, a young woman who looked exhausted. I'm sorry if Sophie bothered you. She's been asking about grandparents since we moved here. Both sets live across the country. She didn't bother me at all. She's a wonderful child. We started talking. Her name was Jennifer, and she was a single mother working 2 jobs. Over the following weeks, I started occasionally babysitting Sophie. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because Sophie asked me to read her stories and baked cookies with me and told me about her day at school. One evening, as I tucked Sophie into bed at Jennifer's apartment, she looked up at me. I love you, Grandma Margaret. My heart swelled. I love you too, sweetheart. This wasn't the family I'd planned for, but it was the family I chose, and that made all the difference. I'm 70 now. It's been 2 years since the surgery that changed everything. I still volunteer at the library. I still do water aerobics. I've traveled to places I always wanted to see but never did, because I was always saving money for David. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what I did: cutting off my son, changing my will, walking away from my biological grandchildren. The answer is no. I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret demanding to be treated with respect. I don't regret choosing my own well-being. What I do regret is not doing it sooner. To anyone watching this who's being taken advantage of by family, whether it's your children, your parents, your siblings, please hear me. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Love shouldn't cost you your dignity, your security, or your peace. I spent 68 years being someone's caretaker. Now I'm finally taking care of myself, and I've never been happier. That's my story. Thanks for listening.